So a Twitter employee gets a phone call saying that their account was hacked. They immediately jump into action and verify their credentials, only for it to be a scam. And this is how a Minecraft scammer stole $16.5 million. This all started when a Twitter employee received a concerning phone call. On the other end of the line was someone claiming to be a help desk representative who noticed some suspicious activity on the employee's account. To ensure the security of their account, the rep needed urgent assistance to reset the password. Thinking quickly, the employee hung up and dialed Twitter support themselves. However, they were shocked to hear that there were no records of any calls being made to support. Concerned about potential account compromise, the employee decided to log in and change their password. But little did they know that what just happened was a sophisticated social engineering attack. And the person on the phone wasn't a scammer, it was a 17-year-old kid named Graham. You see, Graham had somehow managed to obtain the Twitter employee's number, and he used it to pull off a seamless social engineering attack. As soon as the Twitter employee received that phone call, Graham had already gained access to their account. That means Graham had successfully pulled off a phishing attack without even sending a single email or message. And this was only the beginning. This was the same kid that a few months ago got banned from Discord for scamming people out of thousands of dollars. And now he was just getting warmed up. Before we go further into the video, make sure to smash the like button so you can become a member of the squad. So after gaining access to the Twitter employee's account, Graham decided to send a tweet. He tweeted, "I have full access to this account, DM me offers." In this tweet, Graham is basically letting everyone know that he now controls this account and that he is open to offers for it. You have to be really desperate to sell your Twitter account, but hey, maybe this person was in a tough spot financially. And as the minutes went by, the DMs started flooding in. Some people offered $100, others $200. But Graham wanted more. He waited patiently until he received an offer he couldn't refuse. An individual messaged him saying, "I offer $400 PayPal." It was exactly what Graham was looking for. With the deal struck, Graham swiftly transferred control of the account to the new owner and pocketed $400. Easy profit. But there was a problem, you see. When Graham initially accessed the Twitter employee's account, he didn't just steal their password, he also stole their email address. And if you wanted to make a PayPal account under their stolen email address, Twitter would send a verification code to the email to confirm it was actually theirs. But here's the thing, Graham never asked for the verification code. What he did instead was he waited until the next day, when the Twitter employee would probably check their email. When they clicked on the link to confirm their email, they would get sent to a fake website that looked identical to the real one. Once they entered their password on that fake site, Graham would then have access to their email and PayPal account. In other words, Graham could use the money however he wanted to. There was no risk of getting caught. But Graham wasn't done yet. While he could have easily stopped there, he decided to up the ante. Instead of taking just $400 from that one account, he began reaching out to all of the contacts on the employee's contact list. He would tell them the same story about how their account was compromised and ask them to verify their passwords. Most people would agree, thinking they were helping to secure their account. But in reality, Graham was just stealing their passwords. What's crazy is that Graham would then go on to sell these very same accounts back to the people whose accounts they stole from. For example, one time he sold a Twitch account back to its owner for a whopping $2,000. You have to be really desperate to pay to get your account back. But hey, maybe these people were willing to do anything to retrieve their account. Regardless, Graham's pockets were starting to get heavy. In fact, over the course of just 3 weeks, he managed to con people out of $16.5 million worth of crypto. And while most of us would panic after making millions of dollars in a short amount of time, Graham was surprisingly calm. You see, Graham had been planning this attack for months. He wasn't just gonna wing it and hope for the best. No, he had a meticulous plan in place, and he was going to stick to it no matter what. He created multiple throwaway email addresses that he would use to communicate with the victims. He also made sure to cover his tracks by using public computers and mobile data. Plus, he even went as far as to buy a burner phone so that he could keep his real number hidden. But even with all of these precautions, there was still one piece of evidence that linked Graham to the scam. When Graham first hacked into the Twitter employee's account, he left behind an extortion message. He said, "Hey guys, Scrim here. If you want to recover your account, you can contact me at this email." Now, even though Graham tried to cover his tracks, this message provided an important clue as to who was behind it all. You see, Scrim was Graham's online alias, and it was well known in the Minecraft community. In fact, there were even YouTube videos where Graham bragged about his exploits, while using the name Scrim. This meant that investigators now had a lead on who might be responsible for the elaborate scheme. But even with all of this evidence against him, Graham wasn't worried. He knew he had done everything he could to cover his tracks, and he felt confident that he wouldn't get caught. But boy, was he wrong. The authorities were hot on his trail, and they were determined to bring him to justice. After a thorough investigation, they finally had enough evidence to arrest him and his parents. The moment they had been waiting for had finally arrived, but when they searched his house, they found that Graham wasn't there. They found his computer, his phones, and all of his devices, but Graham was nowhere to be found. The authorities put out an arrest warrant for him and his parents, and they even offered a $25,000 reward for any information leading to his capture. It seemed like the full force of the law was coming down on him. But despite all of this, Graham's parents still hadn't heard from him. They had no idea where he was or what he was doing. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. But as it turns out, Graham had run away from home and moved in with a friend. He thought that by hiding his location, he could avoid the police. But they eventually tracked him down anyway. On January of 2023, Graham was arrested at his friend's house. The authorities had finally caught up with him and brought him into custody. When they searched his room, they found several expensive watches and designer clothes. Graham had been trying to hide his wealth, but it was clear to the authorities what he had been up to. He was a millionaire, and he had earned that money through illegal means. Even though Graham was just a kid, he was charged as an adult and thrown in jail. He was only 17 years old when he committed these crimes, and now he had to face the consequences. At first, Graham tried to deny everything. He pleaded not guilty and said that he was innocent, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. There was the extortion message with his alias Scrim, and there were videos of him bragging about his scams online. There was also the fact that he had been living a lavish lifestyle, buying expensive items with the stolen money. In the end, Graham had to admit that he had done it. He had scammed people out of millions of dollars. But it wasn't just about the money. Graham had also caused a lot of damage. He had put people's privacy and safety at risk by selling their accounts to scammers. And he had tarnished the reputation of Twitter by showing that their employees weren't safe either. Graham's actions had far-reaching consequences, and he had to be held accountable. The judge overseeing the case knew that this was a serious offense. Graham was a tech-savvy teenager who had used his skills for evil. He had shown no remorse for his actions and had even boasted about them online. The judge had to send a message to Graham and to others who might be tempted to follow in his footsteps. When it was time for sentencing, the judge came down hard on Graham. He sentenced him to 365 days in jail, 1 year. This was the maximum sentence that Graham could have received, and the judge didn't hesitate to give it to him. Graham's parents were devastated. They had hoped that their son would be given a second chance, but the judge saw no need for leniency. Graham had shown no remorse and had even laughed about his crimes. The judge believed that the only way to punish him was to give him the maximum sentence. As Graham was led away in handcuffs, he knew that he had made a terrible mistake. He had thrown away his future by committing these crimes. He was a bright kid with a lot of potential, but now he would have to spend a year in jail. Graham's parents were heartbroken. They had raised him to be a good kid, but he had gone off the deep end and committed these crimes. They knew that they couldn't excuse his behavior, but they also felt a sense of responsibility. They had failed to guide him in the right direction, and he had taken his anger and frustration out on the world. As the news of Graham's arrest spread, people were both shocked and outraged. Many people couldn't believe that a teenager could be so sophisticated and cunning. Others were angry that Graham had gotten away with so much money. The public demanded justice, and they got it. Over the next few months, Graham's life would turn upside down. He went from being a normal kid to being a convicted felon overnight. His future was uncertain, and he knew that he would have to work hard to rebuild his life. But as he sat in his jail cell, Graham started to think about what he had done. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake, and he wished he could go back in time and change everything. He knew that there was no excuse for his behavior, and he had to face the consequences of his actions. Graham had always been a smart kid. He was good at math and science and had a knack for technology, but he had channeled his intelligence in the wrong direction. He had used his skills to scam people and steal their money, and he had to live with the consequences of that. Graham knew that he would have to work hard to earn back people's trust, but he was determined to try. When he was released from jail, he vowed to make amends and give back to the community. He started volunteering at a local charity and working on projects that helped other people. Graham was determined to show the world that he could be more than his past. He wanted to be remembered for the good things he did, not for the mistakes he had made as a teenager. Still, many people were skeptical of Graham's change of heart. They believed that he was just putting on a show to look good. But Graham didn't care what other people thought of him. He knew that he was making a genuine effort to turn his life around, and that was all that mattered. Graham was determined to succeed, not for the sake of his reputation, but for himself. He wanted to prove to himself that he could make a difference in the world. Even though Graham's future was uncertain, he was optimistic. He knew that he had a long road ahead of him, but he was determined to make the most of it. After all, he had already experienced the worst that life could throw at him, and he had come out of it stronger and wiser than ever before. Now watch the insane rise and fall of WeWork or check out this video instead.